to Independent Chick, and we have our fabulous, fierce, independent women. We've got Miss Melissa and radio DJ in Winnipeg. Melanie Darling, she is a actress comedian within Winnipeg, and then Tia Provici of Provici Cosmetics. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. So today we are speaking about housing and buying and renting and living with partners. So my first question is, do you plan on buying a house, if you're not already owning, with a partner or on your own?
Neither.
Have you thought? You're not buying?
No,
Okay.
I actually have no desire to buy a house anytime soon.
Yeah, good.
I'm thinking with comedy because things are going to be so kind of up in the air. I want to travel. I'm probably just going to have a rental that's kind of lower price so that I can take off at any opportunity.
Commitment.
Yeah, and I heard too, for people who are like us or have that career that's going in here and there, that it's not like the best thing to buy a house.
Not a house, but maybe a condo. Condos are fantastic. I used to own a house. I've lived alone. Now I have a condo with my hubby. I enjoy the condo the best. Because when you have a life such that travel is required and being home is less frequent, then the upkeep just goes to.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, it's time to shovel in the winter in Winnipeg. Are you serious?
The thing I like, about like the idea of a condo is too that you can go, okay, I'm an artist, does another artist want to take over for like 3 months and do a little like sublet exchange type deal, which a lot of people in the arts end up doing.
Yeah. What did you love the best? Did you love living alone, or did you love being with your partner and living together? Living and loving together?
I have to say, when you have a very, very busy lifestyle, coming home to a nice clean house alone is wonderful. It's tranquil, and especially if you're dealing in the field of media, right? Because you're always around people or customer service, so you just want to deflate and turn off. But having a spouse, you necessarily can't deflate. You have to still be polite, and you can't take out all of your frustrations on him. So it has its balances. Owning is always great, especially in this province, because of the fact that prices, it's a great investment. Housing in this province will always continually go up, and that's been the trend for the last little while. It's not the same trend as it is, for example, in Calgary, where the prices go up and down, but housing is a good investment if it's right for you, right? Housing or condo buying, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. So what is your situation right now, your housing
I have
situation?
a roommate now. Now, I've been living on my own as a single woman for like years and years, which was very, very nice. But financially, I think I love having another female roommate. I love the fact that we can support each other and, have cocktails together. And financially, it's just a lot better.
Yeah.
So I like the roommate situation for right now. Not permanent, but, for right now.
Yeah. I think when you're on your own too, it's like there's a lot of pressure that comes with being on your own, and kind of having to do everything. So having that somebody to rely on also is.
And if you live downtown, it's kind of sketchy sometimes.
Yeah.
Honestly, it really is.
Well, but even being a female and owning your own house, that's a lot of responsibility because you're working, you're gonna have to shovel, you're gonna have to cut the grass. I remember my partner was gone so many times in the time that we bought our house that the grass was just growing like weeds. So I got so frustrated one day, I took the lawnmower and I plowed everything, including the petunias and the roses. Because I didn't want to discriminate against anything, I just wanted a short lawn. See, and I mean, those are the things that you don't want to take care of if you have other things that hold precedence, in your life.
It's nice to strike that balance. Like sometimes I do wish I had my own just private situation going on, but I do live with my mom, and sometimes it's really nice to be able to text her and be like, I've had such a long day, can you have tea ready when I get home? And like little things like that, because me and my mom are pals, right? We just hang, and it's like, it's nice that sometimes I want to go home and, like you said, just deflate and be quiet, but other times I'm like, oh, I have someone who has my back and I can kind of talk to and vent to, and I think that's why I haven't left, because it's just nice to have that support system.
All right, so we've come to our last question. Why do we live with somebody? Do you think it's out of convenience, financial, or out of love?
Well, for me, it was financial, and that was a bad decision because it didn't work out, and I would never take that approach again.
And done.
Lesson learned.
I've actually never lived with a romantic partner before, but I would hope it would be out of love rather than convenience, because I could see that being kind of explosive.
And a girl that's lived the lifestyle of Sex and the City, there are many benefits of living with a boy. But I do think humans in general, the reason why they cohabitate is because they want to have a sense of belonging, they want to be cared for, and they don't want to feel alone. So I think that's the essence of it, whether it's your husband or your mother or your grandma or your best friend, living with someone just makes the world feel less lonely.
What's that saying, like, it takes a village, right?
Yeah.
Like, we want that support network that's just natural.
Well, statistically, they do say that people that live or cohabitate prior to marriage don't often work out. So they do. All the statistics say the people that end up staying together are the ones that are married before they cohabitate. Do you guys agree with this?
Absolutely. It's like going for a test drive.
Would you wait? Unless you don't have no plans to get married whatsoever.
I would definitely wait to the very last moment, yeah.
So you're saying it works out better if they
Are married before.
are married
really?
before they live together?
Statistically, it says that people that end up cohabitating prior to marriage, those relationships statistically don't work out, whereas the people that are married, their relationships stay and work out. Yeah.
See, I thought that, I was thinking test drive is usually better, so that surprises me.
Definitely.
You all agree?
Yes,
You-
test drive while you're still
drive.
renting.
Yeah.
Don't buy and test drive.
I think that I would want to live on my own, right, straight into, because I've done it. I've done it 3 times, and I'm a statistic where it's like, it didn't work. But
I think it all depends on the couple in question.
Yeah.
all right.
Right, it's the chemistry between the two, and I mean, it's living habits.
Yeah.
So the willingness to adjust to one another's quirks.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us here on Independent Chick. Later on in the show, we are going to be speaking with a real live mortgage expert on buying your own home and what you would need to do to prepare. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us. I'm Dana Foster, and you are watching Independent Chick on Shaw TV. Thanks so much for joining us. And right now, I'm joined with Laryn Oakes. She is a former Miss Manito Ahbee, and I just wanted to know, what does it take to be Miss Manito Ahbee?
Well, last year when I ran, they talked a lot about being outspoken and outgoing, because of course you have to be able to do stuff like this, being on TV and talking in front of a crowd, and so I really had to work on that. So I guess like not being shy and being outgoing.
You know, what was the process for you, because you are representing a family of a murdered and missing child or a woman. What was that process like for you to represent that family and that girl?
Well, I guess the reason I really wanted to run was because I personally had someone close to me who was murdered, and she was just a young girl. So I guess it was close to me to do this, and I felt like it was right that I should do my best to run and represent for this, because it was a personal thing that happened to me. So I can imagine what Shree's whole family were going through. So it was kind of personal, and that's.
What was that process like, speaking with the family?
It was. I didn't get to meet them last year because I guess the family they lost their son again the same time as the pageant, so I didn't get to meet them. But I met them yesterday during the interviews, and they're really strong family to lose a daughter than to lose a son. And then they said one of the brothers had lost their mother, so like they're really strong family, and it was hard to talk to them. And we talked a lot about what I all did as my reign, because they were trying to get to know me even though I just met them. Yeah.
And what has sort of been the highlights for you during this whole process?
Well, the title, it takes you to every POW, and you represented at many POWs throughout the year, but one of my highlights probably was being able to go to the Gathering of Nations in Albuquerque. It's North America's biggest POW, and I got asked to be head young lady dancer there, so it was really exciting to represent Miss Manito Ahbee over there, especially with the Miss Indian World pageant, and getting to meet so many people. And I actually got to meet Natalie Portman over there, and I had my crown and sash on, and
That's
it was really exciting. Yeah.
What's the head dancer that you were talking about? What is that?
Well, every year they'll get a head woman, head man, head young lady, and head young man, and it's put on by the Matthews family. And what they do is, I guess they look for people who are like role models, or they watch for people, and it's like an honor to be asked. They'll like send you a letter in the mail, and at the powwow you dance in grand entry, you lead in the grand entry, so it's pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice can you give to other young women that you are a role model? You've taken on that job as being a young role model, so you have to make sure that you're doing and acting a certain way. Is that hard, and what sort of advice would you give to other women?
Well, I guess it's kind of hard because you're going to be influenced and peer pressure to do stuff with your friends, to fit in, but I just find I don't want to do that stuff because I know I want to have a good life and I want to respect myself. And I guess the advice I can give to other young women out there is to know that you can do anything you set your mind to. I never imagined I would do something like this like when I was young, because I was always the shy one, but I set my mind to it and I accomplished that. So
You were shy when you were younger?
yeah, I was very shy.
Hiding behind your parents.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. What made you kind of transform into someone who is clearly outgoing?
Especially I think the pageant was probably what helped me change into someone different, like more outgoing, because I knew I had to talk in front of a bunch of people and do interviews, and so my mom helped me prepare for that, like practicing and being around my family.
The show is all about independence, and it's all about empowering young women and women. What are the biggest things that you can think about? How do you feel when it comes to independence? Do you feel like you're independent?
Yeah, I feel like I'm independent. In grade 8, I joined an outdoor program, and that was a lot about independence, and I think that's where I got all that from, because we'd have to do stuff like, I was only in grade 8, and I'd be like riding the city bus by myself, or I'd be biking in the country by myself, or like with my class, and I think that's what really helped me be more independent, and I'm really glad I did that, because I wouldn't be who I am today.
What's up for you next?
For me next? Well,
17, going on 18 soon.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I want to
graduate.
Yeah.
Okay.
My plan is just to graduate high school and then go into university, and I eventually want to go into law school.
All right.
So
Good job. Like to hear that stuff. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Independent Chick, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome back to Independent Chick. I'm Dana Foster, and today we're talking about preparing yourself to buy a house on your own. And we are speaking with Alisha Ewonchuck. She is a mortgage, how are you, a mortgage expert?
Professional. Mortgage professional.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do you prepare yourself to buy a house? You yourself have gone through the whole process by yourself buying a house on your own.
Yes.
How did you prepare yourself? I imagine that it's two ways to prepare yourself, emotionally and financially.
Yes, absolutely. When I started with the idea that I wanted to buy a house by myself, I knew first off that I had to make sure my finances were in shape. If you have a good situation with your income and with your credit, you'll be able to qualify for much better interest rates, thus being able to afford a larger house than you would be able to otherwise. So first I started out with kind of checking my credit and making sure that my credit was in good shape, making sure I'm up to date on payments, that things are going smoothly and that I'm not overextended at all. Then you got to make sure that your income is in check, that you're earning enough money, and that your income qualifies to be able to get a mortgage, because that's obviously the major part of buying a house, is being able to qualify for financing. So emotionally, it was a big decision. Just, you're taking on a really big responsibility all by yourself. So you have to make sure that you're really truly ready for that.
Yeah. How did you come to that decision? How long were you renting prior to deciding that you wanted to buy a home?
I had been renting for several years, and I was also in a couple of different living situations with, ex-boyfriends and what have you. So once that last relationship was ending, I realized instead of going into another apartment, I really wanted to just own property already. It was that time in my life where I was ready to do that. So I had to go through a lot and rent for several years to get myself to that point.
All right. So your point would be getting into a lending program.
Yes.
So what types of different lending programs are there available? And now, is it specific to a single person? Does it differ from people that are in couples buying a house, or?
There's not necessarily any difference in lending programs per se between couples versus single women, but there's single men obviously as well that buy homes, but there are different programs that are available. Like things like New to Canada programs are for people with limited credit history, things like that. There are programs for people that don't have the best credit rating. Okay. And then there's the first time home buyers program, which a lot of women probably would take advantage of. If you've got RRSP savings, you can use those towards your down payment without having to pay heavy taxes on the withdrawal. So that's kind of what's available for that.
So if you've made every wrong step financially to buying your own house, what steps can you or I start making now?
Well, like I was saying at first, check your credit and find out what your situation actually is. It's a good idea to go and talk to a mortgage professional and have them pull your credit bureau and go over things with you. Go for a consultation, and they can tell you exactly what steps you need to take to get yourself in shape. It's possible that if you're not in great shape, you might have to have a larger down payment. Really, that's kind of what it comes down to. So pretty much anybody can buy a house regardless of what shape their credit is in. It's just a matter of having a large enough down payment.
So we are talking about down payment. You have to have a down payment.
Yes.
Is that the best?
Yes.
Is there such thing as people going into? I've never heard.
There used to be programs where you didn't have to have a down payment, but those don't really exist anymore. They're not allowed anymore. So everybody has to have a down payment. The minimum is 5%. Plus you need closing costs, which equal about 1.5% of the purchase price. So in reality, you need 6.5%. Really.
Is that, we're talking about the down payment, right?
And closing costs together.
Okay. Now, how does someone qualify for these programs?
Basically, you have to go in to see a mortgage professional, and you have to, your income and your credit have to qualify. Basically, the mortgage professional will do a calculation. It'll be your total income divided by minimum payments on all your debts, and that'll give a percentage, and that number needs to be under a certain level for you to qualify for a certain size of house, like 200 grand or 250 grand or whatever it is. So you have to go in and have somebody crunch the numbers for you, basically. But make sure it helps if you have a full-time job. That usually does help, but you'd be surprised. People think that they can do it without, but it helps a lot to have a full-time job and to have decent credit. Really, that's the thing, and have a down payment. Those are the three major things. So,
do you think it's that more and more women are starting to buy their own place?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just going up?
It's going up a lot. I see a lot more of that lately. Women are, they're getting married later, or they're not getting married at all. And they're just needing to go off on their own, and they want to own property too, and so, or they're single mothers and they need a home for their families and what have you. So I see a lot of that now.
So my ex-partner, we had got a place together. What we decided to do, though, is we put everything in his name, because then he would get all the deals of being a first-time buyer, whereas like our second house, it would be in my name, and it would go through that process.
Right.
So then we'd get again the second-time buyer's deal. That relationship ended, and then therefore I had to walk away without that place. So is that a good decision when what are the things that you can do to protect yourself if you're buying a place with your partner? And
I guess it depends on what you want. I mean, for me personally, I would always want to be on the mortgage and on title. I would want my name on there. I understand what you mean, though, about wanting to take advantage of the benefits of the first-time buyers program twice, because in a sense you probably would be able to if you did that. But for me, because you never know what could happen in a relationship situation, so I would say probably best to make sure your name is on there so that you you'll be entitled to that property just as equally as the partner would be, so.
All right. Now, we've also talked about just off on our own about the sort of like a rent-to-own type of deal.
Yes.
Do you recommend those?
No.
No.
No, I don't. I haven't.
They sound good.
They definitely sound good, but from my experiences with them, which have been limited, I'll go on record and say that they're expensive. The interest rates are very high. They're designed for people who can't qualify to purchase a house at the time. So then the idea is you go into this rental where a portion of the rent that you pay every month is set aside for a down payment. And at the end of the lease term, the rental term, that money then goes to buy out the lease and purchase the property. But over that term, you're paying so much in interest. You'd be better off just straight renting for that time and saving the money yourself into a high interest savings account or just kind of doing the legwork on your own, because it can turn out to be much more expensive. But people do these programs just on their own. Like you don't necessarily, I could own a house and you could come to me directly and we could do a rent to own. You don't necessarily have to be a company to go through that. Do you know what I mean? To do that.
Right.
So I don't recommend them. I think that people are probably better off just saving the money on their own and just kind of getting themselves ready.
All right. So just to recap, how is a woman what are the first steps that a woman is going to take if she wants to buy her own place? If we can quickly.
Check your income, check
Okay.
your credit, make sure you've got a down payment. Make
All
sure you're
right.
qualified, go talk to a mortgage professional.
Do you recommend a woman buying her own place?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
I'm very happy I did.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the information. Now, hopefully, you're ready to go and take on your own place. Thank you so much for joining us here on Independent Check.